G2 the Vibe podcast coming at you with another episode. So this lady, said I think in Bear County, ends up shooting her husband in the head while he's asleep. Sorry to freeze this at her eyes looking like that, guys. But nuts, absolutely crazy. As we've been kind of talking about domestic violence, domestic abuse over the past couple weeks with the Micah Miller story, we figured we'd dive into this one a little bit too. So yeah, they get a 911 call. They said about 4 o'clock in the morning. They show up. I think his name is Damian Crow. They find him with a gunshot wound to his head. He was apparently sleeping. His wife, Veronica Crow, was the one that was arrested for the crime. And it said that Damian had filed for divorce, and they were getting ready to go through their whole separation process before this had happened. So I'll kind of play a little bit, and then we'll kind of do some reaction as it kind of goes along. It's not a very long video. And then we'll kind of talk a little bit about domestic violence and that type of thing, and some of the issues that I've seen in the community, some of the issues that are probably still going on out there that lead to things like this that happen where you end up with the spouse or an ex-spouse that's dead. It's almost like this Lifetime movie network type of stuff. It's crazy. All right, let's let them talk.
Is dead after a shooting in a Northwest Side neighborhood. It happened around 4 this morning in a neighborhood near 1604 and Kyle Seal Parkway. The Bexar County Sheriff's Office says the man's wife is now facing a murder charge. KENS 5's Vanessa Croy has the details on the case.
The sheriff says the couple was nearing the end of their marriage when this morning the wife shot and killed her husband while he was still asleep. No. A wife accused of a cold-blooded murder.
Do you have anything to say?
Veronica Crow had nothing to say as deputies hauled her off to jail. According to the Bexar County Sheriff's Office, the 51-year-old woman shot and killed her husband early this morning. Deputies got a call just before 4 a.m. reporting a shooting.
We believe the victim was asleep, and we believe that the suspect came and shot him for whatever reason while he was in his sleep.
When deputies got to the home off the 8400 block of Pico de Aguila, they found 49-year-old Damian Crow, who'd been shot in the head. He died on the scene. Sheriff Javier Salazar says the couple was ending their marriage, the only motive investigators have uncovered.
But no actual reports of any sort of violence between them up until this situation this morning.
It's really, really sad to hear that this happened.
Neighbors here still in shock.
This type of thing is very, very unusual.
This morning, neighbors say their quiet street turned into a crime scene.
Only when it's right down the street from home. I mean, it's very, very scary that anything like this can happen. It's very scary.
The sheriff says the couple has one adult child, now left without a father, and a mother in jail facing a murder charge. Reporting at the Bexar County Sheriff's Office, Vanessa Croy.
That's crazy. So this lady shoots her husband in the head, calls 911, reports a shooting. And it was so one of the keys that he said in here that was good, that was a key in the kind of a feather in the cap of Damian, which my condolences to his family. No violence. So no reports of violence, domestic violence, anything like that. Because, a lot of times you get into these cases where somebody gets shot and killed by their spouse. Some type of domestic violence is happening. So I've been on calls like this, many times where you show up, somebody's shot, and it's a domestic violence situation where one person's saying they're protecting themselves, so they end up shooting their spouse. And it's crazy that when the crime gets to that level, that's an elevated level of domestic violence. Because, you start out kind of at the lower level, and it starts with the little things. That's when I was talking about the Micah Miller story, is that the little things matter. You have to pay attention to the little stuff. Could start with animosity, resentment, the way they talk to you, they talk down to you, they're disrespectful to you. They may threaten violence. It may escalate to the level of threatening violence against you. There's signs before you get to this point. Now, can a person just snap out of nowhere and then you just end up at this point? Absolutely. That's a very real thing. It happens. You never know what's going on inside somebody's head, essentially. And so this lady, who knows what was going on inside her head? It sounded like they were on their way to a divorce. ending their marriage, which to me, once you decide to end the marriage, I think that you need to be separated anyway, because that could get you away from things. Now, granted, it doesn't always work out well, because still in the Micah Miller situation, she still ended up, even though they were split up, separated, all that, she still ended up deceased. But still, it's a boundary. It's kind of another barrier between what could happen and what should happen. And so a lot of times you get people when they're going through the split up, they stay together, which is obviously toxic and not healthy. And so who knows what their conversations were inside the house. You can only speculate at this point in time because we don't really know much. There's not a whole lot. Like, she's probably not going to speak at all. You can't claim self-defense if they're saying that the guy was asleep. So literally, Damien had no chance. He had no chance whatsoever of being able to come out of this thing alive, right? His choice was taken away from him, essentially, and now her choice is taken away from her because she's gonna go to prison for murder. And so you got an adult kid now, and they're saying an adult kid, so could still be a teenager because that would be considered adult. I would hope he's above the age of 18. He's out the house, or the kid, or male or female. They didn't specify, but I would hope that person's outside the house. But it's crazy because now you have that person, that kid who lost a mom and dad, and judging by possibly his age, they're probably in their maybe late 30s, maybe early 40s. Probably been married for a while, would be my guess. Like I said, not a whole lot coming out on the story on this one, and I'll probably keep track of it through the weeks, through the coming weeks, and I may do some updates on it. But you got to think about it like this, and this is the way I tell people. That you're married for a decade and a half, 20, 30 years. You've been with this person for that long, and now it's like all of a sudden going to end. And it's usually abrupt. It normally happens quickly. Like between the we're going to split up and the we're divorced is usually a fairly quick cycle. And for some people, it's too much. For some people, it's way too much. Like they can't handle the thought of that person being with somebody else. And I think that that's what lends itself to a lot of these homicides when it comes to couples, like spouses. Committing homicide on their other spouse, and especially in situations like this where you got one that's leaving the relationship, that's decided that they're going to leave the relationship, but one that doesn't want the relationship to end, and so the only way they see fit for it to end is, well, you made a vow, death do us parts, and then they end up shooting them, and then they lose their life, and the other person loses their life too. And so you get in situations like this because I think we as a society, number one, but even people of faith, number two, they get in this mindset that there's only one particular path when it comes to marriage and when it comes to separation. And I think that when you get locked down in that mindset, it lends us to domestic violence like this. Because in my mind, the way I think about it, and I know people bash me with the Bible and they can bash me all they want to. I can care less. Because a lot of the Bible thumpers that bash me with the Bible, they have idols. They worship idols. So I don't even want to hear it. But they will say, well, you can only have these particular situations and this and that and the other. But it's like, a woman and a man does not deserve to be beaten, physically, does not deserve to be manipulated, does not deserve to be resented, to be talked down on all the time, to constantly be bashed. Like nobody deserves that type of behavior. And so for me, if you're going to treat your spouse like that, you need to let them go. So that way, maybe they find peace in themselves, number one, which is the number one thing that you should do when you get a divorce, is find peace in yourself. Or maybe, just maybe you find peace and you find it in somebody else. Somebody else gives you that peace that you're looking for. Because, they say one man's trash, another man's treasure. I mean, this is dumb verses that they speak in rap songs. But I do believe that, if one person resents you for who you are, somebody else will love you for who you are, right? If you're in a relationship and you can't love a person for who they are, then you shouldn't be in a relationship with them. Because then you lend yourself to situations like this. This is the type of stuff that happens when people drag relationships on when they shouldn't. Number one, when people pressure their partner into doing whatever they want to do. Oh, I want to do this, so we got to do this. And so you put all this pressure on one person. This is what happens when you're dealing with somebody who doesn't possess the ability to be alone, right? So this woman probably doesn't possess the ability to be alone. I think her name is Veronica Crow. She doesn't seem like she possesses the ability to be alone. So in order for her to get where she wanted to go, she didn't want to be without this guy. And she may have seen him as her property. That's something that I've heard a lot, oftentimes in domestic situations. It feels like that person is their property. So when you get to that situation where it feels like that person's your property, then it's hard for you to be able to let them go, right? And so now they've decided to separate, and she can't let him go, right? So before the separation becomes final and he's gone out the house, she shoots this man in the head. Now he's dead. He don't even got a choice. So she essentially took this man's choice away from him, which is selfish. But she took this man's choice away from him. Now he doesn't have a choice on the matters at hand now. And that's a possessive nature, possessive mindset. And like I said, I'm pretty sure red flags were probably there. But a lot of times red flags get overlooked in relationships. Like you get in a relationship with somebody and you just clean forget all the red flags. You clean forget them. So you're just like, man, this is perfect. But it's really not perfect because you're ignoring stuff that you should probably be paying attention to. But they'll probably have sympathy for this lady. I don't have no sympathy for her because my man had he had no chance. Like, dude's in his sleep. She shoots this man in the back of his head and kills him. So he had no chance. Just because he wanted to divorce you didn't mean you had to kill him. Like, but that's the reason why I say that if you're making the choice that you're going to split, you need to split. Like, don't be in the same house with the person because you never know what may happen given the opportunity for something to happen. Because I'm always of the mindset that you never know until you need to know. And this is a perfect example of a situation where she didn't know, or he didn't know, until it was too late. Right? It was too late for him to know now the type of person that he married. Because nobody ever thinks that they married a murderer, but now my man is dead, and it's his soon-to-be ex-spouse that's the one that killed him. Pretty sure he didn't go to the altar and say, oh man, this chick is a murderer, because he definitely probably wouldn't have went to the altar. That's one of the things. It's one of the things that men get divorced with women for when men choose divorce. It's like crimes. Like if a woman does crime or drugs or something like that, then men will leave because of that type of stuff. So I don't see him marrying her on the merits of that. But now her true colors are showing out, and he lost his life in the thick of it. And so yeah, like I said, he didn't get a chance. My man had zero chance he had zero chance and no choice. That's the type of control that wicked, evil people have. When they have to have you, and if they can't have you, nobody else can have you. And you don't want to be married, you don't want to be in a relationship with a person that thinks like that. That's one of those ways that when you think like that, it's like, nah, absolutely not. That's not the way it's supposed to be. And so my condolences to Damian Crow and his family down there in Texas. Hopefully they can find some type of solitude in the fact that they do have the suspect in custody. And hopefully they charge her correctly when she goes to her charging, because she's probably going to plead guilty. Because if you're the only one in the house and your prince is on the gun and you call 911 reporting a shooting, you can't say self-defense. My man was sleeping, so you can't say, oh, he tried to beat me. I don't know how he's going to beat you in his sleep unless he's sleepwalking. But according to the reports, he was laying down on his bed asleep. And then she shot this man in the head. And that's just it's crazy to me because even in this situation, and then the Micah Miller situation, like, it don't matter what walk of life that you're in. You never know who you're dealing with until you find out who you're dealing with. And so you have to be careful. You have to be extremely careful in situations like this, especially when it comes to domestic violence. You have to be careful. And you got to see the signs. When the signs are popping up constantly, pay attention to them. Understand it. Like, the signs are popping up, so you got to be aware. As friends to people, you got to be aware of your friends too. Demeanor changes happen. And like I said, number one thing we learn here is once you decide to split, go ahead and you guys need to be in separate households. Don't split and then stay together, because you don't want to give the opportunity for something like this to happen. Walk your way into it, essentially. But that's all I got on this one. If you like our stuff, please like, subscribe to the channel, share, leave comments. If you know anything further about this case, please put in the comment section so that way I can do some more research. I'll follow this as it kind of unfolds. I'm going to be interested to see her charging appointment, not her but when she actually gets formally charged, and then her sentencing. I'd want to see what they're going to do in Texas. I know Texas has some pretty stout laws down there, so hopefully they will go ahead and give this chick what she deserves for killing an innocent dude that had no chance. Like, dude had no chance. Zero chance at all. Crime of passion, all that BS that people be pushing out. That ain't this. This is a dude that was planning on leaving his woman, and she didn't want to let him go. So she decided to take his life and take her life in return. My condolences to the son or the daughter. They didn't really say. They said they had a kid, to their kiddo, who's an adult who has lost two parents, essentially, in one crazy act. Because this person, the child, the kid of these people, he ain't going to talk to his mama. There's no way he talked to his mama. His mama, he won't even go see her at the prison. Maybe he will for one thing, and that's to get answers on why she did what she did. Because she ain't talking to nobody, and I guarantee you she won't talk to anybody. So, this is GT The Vibe Podcast. I'm out.